Letter 155 by Charles Lamb. PM August 29, 1806. My dear Miss Wordsworth, after I had put my letter in the post yesterday, I was uneasy all the night because of some few expressions relative to poor Coleridge. I mean, in saying I wished your brother would come to town, and that I wished your brother would consult Mr. Southey. I am very sure your brother will take no step in consequence of any foolish advice that I can give him. So far I am easy, but the painful reflections I have had during a sleepless night has induced me to write merely to quiet myself, because I have felt ever since that in the present situation of Coleridge, returned after an absence of 2 years and feeling a reluctance to return to his family, I ought not to throw in the weight of a hair in advising you or your brother, and that I ought not to have so much as named to you his reluctance to return to Keswick. For so little is it in my power to calculate on his actions that perhaps in a few days he may be on his return home. You, my dear friend, will perfectly understand me that I do not mean that I might not freely say to you anything that is upon my mind. But the truth is, my poor mind is so weak that I never dare trust my own judgment in anything. What I think one hour a fit of low spirits makes me unthink the next. Yesterday I wrote, anxiously longing for Mr. Wordsworth and Mr. Southey to endeavor to bring Mrs. C to consent to a separation, and today I think of the letter I received from Mrs. Coleridge telling me, as joyful news, that her husband is arrived, and I feel it very wrong in me, even in the remotest degree, to do anything to prevent her seeing that husband, she and her husband being the only people who ought to be concerned in the affair. All that I have said, or meant to say, you will perfectly understand, it being nothing more than to beg you will consider both my letter today and yesterday as if you had not read either, they being both equally the effect of low spirits, brought on by the fatigue of Coleridge's conversation and the anxious care even to misery which I have felt since he has been here, that something could be done to make such an admirable creature happy. Nor has, I assure you, Mrs. Coleridge been without her full share in adding to my uneasiness. They say she grows fat and is very happy, and people say I grow fat and look happy. It is foolish to tease you about my anxieties. You will feel quite enough on the subject yourself, and your little ones are all ill, and no doubt you are fatigued with nursing. But I could not help writing today, to tell you how what I said yesterday has vexed and worried me. Burn both these foolish letters and do not name the subject of them, because Charles will either blame me for having written something improper, or he will laugh at me for my foolish fears about nothing. Though I wish you not to take notice of what I have said, yet I shall rejoice to see a letter from you, and I hope, when you have half an hour's leisure, to see a line from you. We have not heard from Coleridge since he went out of town, but I dare say you have heard either from him or Mrs. Clarkson. I remain, my dear friend, yours most affectionately, M. Lamb. Friday, August 29. For the full understanding of Mary Lamb's letter, it is necessary to read Coleridge's life and his letters. Coleridge on his return from abroad reached London August 17, 1806, and took up his quarters with the Lambs on the following day. He once more joined Stuart, then editing the Courier, but much of his old enthusiasm had gone. In Mr. Dykes Campbell's words, almost his first words to Stuart were, I am literally afraid, even to cowardice, to ask for any person, or of any person. Spite of the friendliest and most unquestioning welcome from all most dear to him, it was the saddest of homecomings, for the very sympathy held out with both hands induced only a bitter, hopeless feeling of remorse. Sense of past youth and manhood come in vain, and genius given and knowledge won in vain. Of broken promises, promises to friends and promises to himself, and above all, sense of a will paralyzed, dead perhaps, killed by his own hand. Coleridge remained at Lamb's at any rate until August 29, afterwards taking rooms in the Courier office at 348 Strand. Meanwhile, his reluctance to meet or communicate with his wife was causing his friends much concern, none more so than Mary Lamb, who wrote at least 2 letters filled with anxious sympathy to Dorothy Wordsworth on the subject, asking for the mediation of Wordsworth or Southey. Her earlier letter is missing. To quote Mr. Dykes Campbell again, on September 16, just a month after his landing, he wrote his first letter to his wife to say that he might be expected at Greta Hall on the 29th. Before this, Wordsworth had informed Sir George Beaumont that Coleridge dare not go home. He recoils so much from the thought of domesticating with Mrs. Coleridge, with whom, though on many accounts he much respects her, he is so miserable that he dare not encounter it. What a deplorable thing! I have written to him to say that if he does not come down immediately, I must insist upon seeing him somewhere. If he appoints London, I shall go. I believe if anything good is to be done for him, it must be done by me. It was this letter of Wordsworth, doubtless, which drew Coleridge to the north. Dorothy's letter to Lady Beaumont, written on receipt of the announcement of Coleridge's homecoming, goes copiously and minutely into the reasons for the estrangement between the poet and his wife. Miss Wordsworth still had hopes of an improvement. Poor soul, she writes, he had a struggle of many years, striving to bring Mrs. C to a change of temper, and something like communion with him in his enjoyments. He is now, I trust, effectually convinced that he has no power of that sort, and may, she thinks, if he will be reconciled to that one great want of sympathy, live at home in peace and quiet. Mrs. C has many excellent properties, as you observe. She is unremitting in her attention as a nurse to her children, and, indeed, I believe she would have made an excellent wife to many persons. Coleridge is as little fitted for her as she for him, and I am truly sorry for her. It might perhaps be stated here that the separation was agreed upon in December. At the end of that month, Coleridge visited the Wordsworths at Colerton with Hartley, and in a few days began to be more like his old self, in Dorothy Wordsworth's phrase. I append an undated letter, which may belong to this period.